Wilson Morales from Black Film TV. What's up, guys? How's it going?
Wilson,
Hi,
what's
how are
up,
you,
man?
Wilson?
Yeah, so Dara, I've seen your work as an actor, but here you are as a writer. How did this come about? Nate, how did you come to direct it?
How did this come about? I was it was a cold summer day, and no, I'm kidding, Wilson. It's something that I've always wanted to see, and I hadn't seen too much of it, especially with us. And so I love this style of film, but I mean, it's been forever since we've had the Love Joneses, Love and Basketball, like these sort of beautifully like lived in stories that are centered around blackness, but are not centered around our trauma, you know. And so if you build it, they will come, Wilson. And I built it, and hopefully they will come. And it's got a little bit of a I have a little. There's an ex of mine whose sister was diagnosed with cancer, and me trying to sort of figure out how to navigate that space with her, and her telling me about how I need to be who I am because everybody else is acting different around her, and me seeing her sister and thinking that she was going to be look and be sick and all, but she was just this beautiful, still their beautiful, vibrant self, and I was like, wow, Hollywood's depiction of sickness. Especially when it comes to women, is just so skewed into this idea that like a man has to come save a woman, and I don't know weak women. Women have saved my life, and so I was like, if I can find an opportunity to write a story that will depict that, I'm gonna go for it, and here we are.
Mhm. Nate, how'd you get on board?
Um, I think the stars really aligned. It's definitely not every day that, a filmmaker gets a chance to make their first feature. Um, Previous work that I had did, on music videos with an artist by the name of Toby Wigway, we take a very cinematic approach to this short form content of what we're doing. Um, And, I was confident when I read the story that, I had a vision that, was akin to Before Sunrise and In the Mood for Love, these films that I know when it comes to romantic dramas, I covet so highly.
Mm.
Um, that you know, they all aligned. And Thankfully, we had an amazing supportive team from, Darrell to the producers to the studio to, everyone that really got on board with the vision and, collaborated in every way and shape, form that we needed to, and just supported what we were doing.
Was this the outcome you wanted? I know, Nate, sometimes, a screenwriter doesn't always get the full script, done. There's always changes once a director comes on board, once a producer comes on board. They look at the math and they're like, we got to sell this. And I know you like to say they build it, they will come, but let's be real here. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we want to leave with a good ending. We're like, we
Yeah,
don't want to see this. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So, but like, was this the script you had all along? Or did obviously you made changes,
yeah,
knowing you have to put this out so that an audience can watch it. And as much as you want to tell the story, we know how things play out.
sure. Yeah, I mean that was the blessing of having incredibly supportive partners behind the scenes who allowed us to to make the movie we set out to make. I think that there's a lot of places that maybe we could have taken it and it might have been drastically different. But we were blessed to sort of have partners who allowed us to make the movie that we always wanted to make, and the script that I wrote. Of course, there's always going to be changes with scripts and things of that nature, but yeah, it's one of those things that I watch it, and I've watched it a million times now, and I just every time enjoy it and find something new, and love it so much, which it just feels like such a gift, and the gift that keeps on giving.
Mm-hmm. Nate, what's the transition like from music videos to feature film? And obviously working with a cast that you have here.
That's a great question. I think there are a lot of commonalities of having to adjust, having to think quickly on your feet, knowing what it is that you're there to, like what's your goal? What's your goal for the day? Things that don't translate is just the overall marathon that it is. Because the film is made when it's written, it's made in pre-production, made again during production, made again during the editing phase. So it was the short race versus the marathon run that I think was the biggest transition. But it was great, being able to obsess over something for this long is something that I love to do.
Because this is a personal story for you, Darrell, it's almost like an albatross. It's like when people want to make their first book or their first film and they bring in something personal, you just want to get it out of the way. Now that it's here, where do we go from? Are you going to continue to be a screenwriter? I think that because of the pandemic and then obviously the writers and actors strike, people had to shift and say, okay, what else do I have in me that I can do? I can't just stick to one thing. Are we going to get more films out of you as a screenwriter? Are you going to move your way up to directing?
Yeah, well, I definitely have more. Yeah, we have a lot more on the way. Speaking of during the pandemic, I remember there was this moment where I was like, this breaking point of like, well, what do I do with this time? And I wrote 2 features in 70 days, and they're really good. But I have a bunch of stuff ready to go. I didn't want to write one and then be caught in this space of like, well, what do I do next? I have a bunch more ready to go, and I'm somebody who can only write. I have to be inspired to write, and so like everything that I've written, like I've been inspired to write it, so it will come from the place of like my artistry, whatever that may be. And I'd love to direct. Being able to watch Nate direct is like just ridiculous because I've just learned so much. I've had the pleasure of working with some of the greatest directors I think living, and then adding him to that list. But we got some more stuff to do. This is, yeah.
We just want to get this off the ground. So congratulations, guys, on getting this done. I
Thank
think
you.
there's a lot of interest in people seeing it.
Yeah,
Let the audience decide, where they want to take this movie. And let's say it's the next Love and Basketball, the next
yeah,
so but you want it to stand out on its own. So congrats on this
absolutely.
one.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Wilson. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, Wilson.
Have a good one.
Wilson Morales from Black Film and TV. Hello, folks. How's it going?
Hi, how's it
Hi.
going?
Good.
So some of you have this task of leading audiences to see a romantic but unromantic film, without going into details. What led you to take on this project?
Oh, I find this question very interesting because I'm like, as a Black woman, there are slim pickings when it comes to roles. So it was more of like, I think that was one thing that pushed me to read it because I had not been given a script that was specifically written for a woman of my skin tone before. I've never had that. And so I wanted to be part of something that was intention driven. And I felt that from the moment that I read the script, from the Zoom call that I had with Nate and Darrell, there was something that they wanted to do that I had never seen before. And I was like, I want to be part of this. This feels like revolution. This feels like everything radical, everything that I've always wanted to do in acting, which is to kind of create a shift in conversation. And I fell in love with this character. I fell in love with the dialogue. There's a level of artistry and attention to detail that Black narratives don't usually get. And so it felt like I was praying that I could be a part of it. I told my agents, I was like, I will kill for this role. I will. And so luckily it didn't have to come to that.
And Taissa, how much more did you want to add besides being the best friend? Like what did you want to bring to the table that makes it different?
I mean, for me, especially back in the script, I love stories of female friendships, ones that are authentic and don't have the cliched competitiveness and cattiness or anything like that. It's just two women who love each other, who are different at their cores, but they support each other. And when I met Arsema, our chemistry as just two humans was there and exploded in a beautiful way. And you know, I just want to be a part of stories that show the things that I want to watch and tell the stories that I want to be a part of. And there wasn't much of a decision. It's just like, I love the people making this. I love the story, and if I can just even just be a couple sprinkles on top, then I want to be a part of it.
You talked about Arsema. You talked about getting the role. What about being in the role? You know, was there anything you added in there? Was there anything that you could relate to this character, Molly? You know, being in love. You know, obviously there are other things that's going on with her. You know, like what did you do in terms of trying to relate with this character?
So there are a couple of elements of Molly that I was able to zero in on. I'm a big astrophysics nerd. I was so close to being a physics major when I was in undergrad. That is what me and my dad connect on. And so this relationship between Molly and her father felt like something that I had with my dad. And so it was interesting being with Edwin Lee Gibson. And I remember I was talking to Darrell about this, the fact that there was a very priceless gift, because my father passed away, and I felt like I was able to, for the brief 2 months of filming, I got to have that relationship back. And so that was a really, really important element. And I think also just when it comes to the struggles that Molly has, it reminded me of my aunt who was diagnosed with breast cancer and then is now in recovery, and discussing with her what that entire roller coaster is like and how to maintain, a normal life while you have this looming, diagnosis almost overshadowing everything. How do you make it seem like the sun can still break through the clouds?
Then there's the love aspect. When we watch these stories, we know there's a setup there, and then it's a matter of the writing, whether or not we can engage with this couple. Like, we want this couple to be together. We know, in storytelling, there's the meet cute, break up, get back together. How did you and Darrell work it so that way when you're saying those lines and you're going through certain scenarios, we, the audience, can buy it?
I think Darrell and I really wanted to make sure that the relationship was as organic as possible. And I think that's a really generous part of having a film where you go from them meeting to all the way them falling in love, because then you can just follow along with it rather than having to meet them where they already have built that trust. But it was also like we had rituals. Darrell would drive me to and from set every day, even on the days that he wasn't filming. And we would have long conversations there. We would debrief back. I mean, we would sit in his car for 2 hours once he's dropped me off, just talking it over and over and over. And I think the moment that he gave me, I saw that he trusted me to hold this story for him and to hold this character that has been on his heart for 7 years. And then it made it really, really easy for me to then allow him in and to trust him as well. And so I think that ended up just kind of, through osmosis ending up on the screen. I hope,
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, it was very easy. I mean, they would call cut and we'd still just be bantering and cracking it up. It's funny because watching the movie, there are moments where I was like, it was after they said cut and it made it in there. So, yeah.
Taissa, how would you best describe this film when you're telling people, this is coming out and you're in it?
I just tell them that I got to make this really bomb-ass love story in Los Angeles, in a city that has my heart. And I tell them that there's a blossoming movie star and you better watch it because she's going to be fucking famous one day for her talent.
She already is. We already know what she did before. It's like, let's not kid ourselves. When she says, I didn't get a black role, what was that? It's like, last I checked, you weren't Chinese in that movie, that series. So who are you talking to?
It's interesting. I guess there's also this difference between, something that like TV and film. I think like we as like the Black community, our narratives tend to be on TV because it is smaller, and sometimes we're like forced to be in that, and cinema has this prestige that we tend to be isolated out of. And so I don't know, for me, I feel like there is a massive difference just now, even like comparing the two experiences. Yeah.
Well said. Good. Congratulations on both your roles. Obviously, you know, let's get an audience to watch this, talk about it, see it. So that way, as Darrell puts it, it's in the canyons of other old school love stories and all of that stuff. So we'll talk down the road. Take care.
Thank you so
Thanks so much,
much.
Wilson.